Hamas saying it's reached a deal for the release of Palestinian prisoners. Joining me here on the set is Sami al-Arian, who's a professor of public affairs and director of Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. Welcome back to Al Jazeera. How do you read these developments, this agreement now that's been reached, Israel agreeing to release the delayed Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Israeli captives?
Well, throughout the first phase, what Netanyahu was trying to do is trying to find justification in order to resume his genocidal war. But he hasn't been able to get a green light from the United States. This was another incident in which he wanted to use certain justifications in order to resume his war, but he hasn't got that green light. So now he is resuming the rest of the deal, which is to hand over the 602 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for whatever is left of that agreement. But he hasn't even started the second phase, which was supposed to start on day 16. This Saturday would be the end of the first phase, and they haven't even started yet.
So that's exactly it. What are the likely scenarios going forward? Are we looking at a possible scenario of an extension of phase one of the ceasefire, or will the negotiations and the implementation of phase two begin?
It's not clear, but apparently no one from the resistance side would like to resume the war. But at the same time, they don't want to give the Israelis the justification to get back their prisoners without ending the war. So we have an impasse right now. The American envoy, Witkoff, is not coming back this week. He's sending some other low-level officials to try to see if they can find a solution. In the meantime, the Arabs are trying to meet and get some sort of a plan by which they can satisfy Americans' demands without having to resume the war, meaning that Hamas will not be part of any future arrangement. I don't think Hamas will go for that because they haven't surrendered, they haven't been defeated. But we have to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this. Israel is a Western colonial settler state that is trying to use all means to make sure that it stays. That is using genocide, ethnic cleansing, forced displacement, and all these tools have been used by Israel. And now they are also being used by the United States. What Trump wants is he wants to achieve the political ends of Israel without having to resume the war. And that's a tall order.
I wanted to ask you about whether you're clear on what the American position is going forward when it comes to the war as well as the phases of the ceasefire. I mean, earlier you were saying that the Americans didn't give the Israelis the green light, but where do the Americans officially stand? What do they want to see?
Well, they want to see the objectives sought by Israel fulfilled, but they don't want that with the war because that will derail Trump's agenda. Trump has a very large agenda domestically and internationally. He doesn't want to be dragged by Israel into a war that will not yield much results. Throughout his campaign, he was telling Netanyahu, finish the job. He did not finish the job, and he's not about to give him another chance. There is a possibility, though, that the people around Trump are pretty Zionist, and they may convince him to give Netanyahu a couple of months more. I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
And when it comes to these phase two negotiations, I mean, how challenging do you expect them to be? Because the preconditions that have been put forward by both sides are quite challenging, aren't they?
They are very challenging, but the resistance, really, Hamas has no choice. If they don't stop the war, what's the point of handing over their leverage, their biggest card, which are the remaining hostages, the captives, in exchange for another resumption of the war? That doesn't wash. They have to get guarantees from the Americans, from the other mediators, Qatar and Egypt, that this war would end, that there will be a complete Israeli withdrawal, that the aid would be resumed the same way they have agreed to, 600 trucks, which hasn't been coming, but also in terms of the massive reconstruction. Hamas is flexible in terms of what happens the day after. They are willing to withdraw, but not to withdraw completely. They would like to be a part of any arrangements. They want that to be a part of the Palestinians taking charge in Gaza, not some other foreign governments or foreign forces coming. That doesn't make any sense. Again, that's back to what Israel is. Israel is not interested in any kind of restoration of rights for the Palestinians. It uses occupation, all means, in order to make sure that its presence in Gaza is a presence of an occupier, of a settler, of an invader.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Sami al-Arian, Professor of Public Affairs and Director of Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.